I've promised that I'm going to be going live every Friday at 9 a.m. Arizona time, which presently is 9 a.m. Pacific. And so far, I haven't kept that promise. I've been, we got super busy, and then I've been a little gun shy with the lives too, because they've been something, they've been a little hit or miss from a value perspective. Or at least that's the way that I felt. So I feel like where we're going to get a lot out of these lives, if I get questions and inquiries, what I wanted to talk about today, just while I'm waiting for people to trickle in, if they trickle in, is the privacy adjustments that are being made to the entire digital ecosystem and how that's going to impact our digital marketing long term, which is kind of my favorite topic. Although what's really weird is when I look at the views on our videos, it's the one that gets the least amount of play. Like nobody's interested in it, which sort of shocks me to death because it's like so important. It's nuts what's going to happen. And what I'm referring to specifically, there's I guess two major, the iOS 14 and the impact that it's had on Facebook ads, which will impact Google ads, because what you're going to see is a lot of Facebook advertisers are going to be pushed into Google. I was trolling the Reddit forum today, the Facebook ads Reddit forum, and it's just nothing but people saying, why are my CPMs going through the roof? What's going on? Campaigns aren't converting. I've got a client that we run Facebook ads for independent of what we do at Solutions 8, and his CPMs are 4 to 5x what they were. Same audience, very similar offer. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of desperate advertisers that have to push themselves into something else. And what that means is they're going to be going to other places, but they're going to be going to Google, more specifically YouTube. So we'll probably see YouTube ad clicks go up, or the cost of YouTube go up potentially. And I think that's going to happen pretty quickly. You know, as inventory shrinks down, the cost is going to increase. So that'll be, you know, kind of issue number one. What'll be sort of fun for us, though, is I do think as a Google Ads agency, we're going to find more people that are receptive to inbound search again, especially retailers receptive to, you know, shopping and smart shopping. Smart shopping is the biggest opportunity available to online stores, my soft opinion, and so many of them aren't taking advantage of it because they're just kind of obsessed with the the guilty pleasure that is Facebook. And Facebook can, it can generate a ton of purchases for sure, but it's not evergreen, and it doesn't build on itself. It's not really an investment as much as it is just kind of like a pay to play. What I like about smart shopping is it will build on itself. So, some good, some bad from a Google perspective. If you're an agency anyway, if you're an agency, I think expect to see a flood of advertisers moving into Google as Facebook repels people. And, Facebook will contend with that and figure it out and hopefully crack the code and things move back to stasis. But we have that long to have to deal with, the adjustments. And that's a guess. Maybe it doesn't happen. But we're also going to see people that are a little bit more receptive to running Google ads in the first place, because we're gonna have a bunch of advertisers that are desperate, for lack of a better term. Forgive me for phrasing it that way. So that's number one. Number two is Flock, federated learning of cohorts. Google is they're inhibiting our ability to track people on a one-to-one basis, and they're putting all of those people into flocks, which are thousands of people, and then giving us information in aggregate. So they would say, hey, this group, Flock 191, comes to your site sometimes. Generally speaking, they do these things. And these things, by the way, it's not even a comprehensive list of these things. It's a prioritized list according to what Google thinks is important. Think about how scary that is. Google is going to tell you what conversion actions it's going to report on and what conversion actions it's not going to report on. And then it's going to sprinkle in what they're calling noise, just to help veil people's identity even more. So some of those conversion actions can't be trusted. This is a danger to small advertisers. We already don't get enough data as it is. If you're spending less than, call it 10 grand a month, you're on a trickle of information. And if Google is going to limit the information that's available to you, we're going to put ourselves into a position to where you're not going to have the decision-making prowess necessary in order to properly optimize, especially if you're running it yourself. If you're running through an agency, the benefit to you there is the agency is going to be able to amalgamate data. So we're going to have data from, multiple different sources, and then we're going to be able to hopefully fill in the gaps in some instances. Google's saying that Flock is going to produce results that are up to 95% as effective as the current results that people are seeing. I don't buy that. I think that their beta test is probably for big advertisers with a lot of money that hide behind spend. I think for small advertisers, which is all of my clients, by the way, like all of our clients, but a very small handful spend less than 100 grand a month. Most of them are spending, much less than that. And so Flock is something to just prepare for and to contend with. I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I do think that it's going to force us to do a bunch of things. The first is I think that we're going to have to start acquiring data elsewhere. So there are other software solutions, Wicked Reports, friends of ours actually over at Northbeam are trying to build attribution systems, but places for us to build to inject the missing data to kind of fill in the blanks. It sort of reminds me of that old the first Jurassic Park movie where they talked about how they got the dinosaur DNA, but they didn't have all of it, so they needed to go put frog DNA. We're going to do the same thing. Wicked Reports is going to be our frog DNA, just so we can fill in the gaps and we have a full picture. That's number one. Number two is we can't be lazy with our data acquisition. We can't miss any opportunity to capture information. And what that's going to mean, especially for lead generation clients, you're going to suffer most. You have to use a CRM. You have to capture UTM and gclid parameters. You have to report on the quality of those prospects and then upload that back into Google so Google can help identify common denominators and optimize for those common denominators. I think e-commerce stores are going to be better off and then maybe even escape unfazed, because where Google's not giving you the information, Google still has the information. And so I think this move, interestingly, helps support Google's ongoing launch towards automation. What Google's trying to do is force us all into a position where we have to rely on their smart bidding. We found out yesterday, it's nuts. There was a tweet, somebody captured a screenshot of Google having smart matching as a match type, and which means that Google potentially is rolling out a new match type that nobody's told us about. And so I think for online retailers, with the new changes and updates that are being made, you're going to be in a slightly better position because Google knows when a purchase is made and they can optimize on your behalf. But you now have to trust machine learning. What this is going to do is also place a massive emphasis on the integrity of your campaign structure, whether or not you're following the rules. There's going to be no like willy-nilly, throw it up. You're going to have to do all the right things the right ways from the very beginning. There's just going to be less margin for error. Imran saying Google team has recommended not to block any placements. We found out some websites and apps which don't perform well for us and want to exclude those from placements. Is Google right? No, Google's wrong, man. That's what a great question, Imran. Thank you for that. So are you talking, and let me ask you this, what medium are you talking about? Because, Google Display Network, for instance, if you don't block placements, you're going to hemorrhage money. This whole narrative about, hey, just tell us what it is you want us to do, and then we'll be able to do it for you. That works inside of Facebook in a silo. But Google's too expansive. Google's too prolific. So if you were to just, push your ads across the entire Google Display Network and wait for Google to properly optimize that, you're going to spend all of your money before you reach critical mass. Yeah. So Imran just said, yes, the Display Network. I wouldn't go to the Display Network with allowing Google the broad reach. As a matter of fact, there was this really cool value add that, who was it? PPC Protect. Let's take a look and see if we can find it. PPC Protect. Oh, you know what? I've got a YouTube video on it. I'll just go find my YouTube channel. So there's a company out there called PPC Protect, and they dropped a pretty awesome value bomb where they gave like 60,000 display exclusions. Check this out. Let me share my screen here. Let's see if y'all can see it. So here's PPC Protect. Where's the video? Well, I should have linked to the damn article. Obviously, I didn't. But I'll link to this video here. There we go. So what's it called? Give me just a second, y'all. I want to get you this link. 60,000 website apps and channels to exclude. So we'll say 60,000 websites, apps, channels, exclude. Bam, there we go. So, Imran, I just dropped an exclusion list on you inside of the comments. I hope you can see it. If you can, I'll make sure it shows up in the description of this video when I'm done. I'll make a note for myself to do that. But what's really cool is they went through and they provided a list of 60,000 just totally extraneous websites and apps that we shouldn't be using in our advertising. And not all of them, by the way, are viable. Like when we went through the list, and one of the commenters here actually said, hey, dude, I actually see some I see quite a few valid URLs, cars.com, for instance, Martha Stewart, etc. So don't use this wholesale, but it is it's a good start. The big problem with the Google Display Network is it's so expansive. The Google Display Network reaches 90% of all internet users on the planet. 90% of all internet users on the planet. Think about that. 65% of those users are reached on a daily basis. Like, it's the most prolific thing online. I mean, maybe AWS is more prolific, but it's the most prolific, like, front-facing, consumer-facing thing online. It's hard to contend with. I actually think that the Google Display Network is maybe the biggest missed opportunity of all advertisers ever, because nobody's really cracked the code. It's like, how do you segment every single website on the internet? And Google hasn't done a good job of letting us do that. There's not much in the way of assistance and helping us identify. We can segment by prospect, but we can't segment by placement. We can't segment well. The categorization there is just so broad. And I don't know that I fault them for that, because it'd be hard. How do you categorize every single website on the internet? So I hope that helps, Imran. Thank you very much for the question. By the way, that's why I'm going live. So if you've got questions, lob them in here, because that's the value to you of showing up when I'm live. And that's hopefully the value to other people, is they end up hearing, more information on what it is that people want to hear, and not just the stuff that I want to talk about. So Imran is saying, in the case for the same for pin codes as well, we found pin codes which give us lower than one ROAS. Should we exclude those as well, even for retargeting? If you're not getting the return on ad spend, then I would definitely narrow things down. Absolutely. I mean, there's no reason for you to push traffic inside of a network just to comply with the algorithm. Ryan is saying, I uncheck all Google search partners and display network. Yeah, so what Ryan's saying, and I'll share my screen here again. This is so frustrating to me anyway. Google, if I go to create a new campaign, let's say that I tell Google I want to create a search campaign. So continue without Google guidance, search, start new. Here's what's really funny. Google immediately includes the display network. It's insane. It's insane, because I love the display network. I think it's a phenomenal channel. But for them to say, and if I uncheck it, it's opted as it's already pre-checked. If I uncheck it, then they're like, don't miss the opportunity to reach more people. It's a paradigm shift. You can't go to somebody. It's like trying to push your television advertisements across radio. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a different approach. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to use a display network, go build something just for display. But if you're going to use your search network, then build your campaign just for search. And Ryan said that he unchecks the search network. I include Google search partners. I found some quality traffic in search partners, and it tends to be less expensive. And so I would test this at a minimum, but I absolutely agree with you, Ryan. I include the display network as well. Dennis says, I notice every time I'm using target CPA, the budget gets lower and lower until the campaign doesn't spend much anymore. The campaigns have 3 to 8 conversions per day. They always run out after about 45 to 60 days. Dude, that's so interesting that you said that. So we've had a very similar experience with Google, and it's not just target CPA. It feels like it's all smart bidding. Here's what, and this is anecdotal, and this is going to sound like maybe just paranoia, because probably it is. But my experience with Google is, we build it. What's happening to us right now? It's my agency. We built our own campaign, and it was crushing life. Like, phenomenal response, great lead quality, adequate cost per lead, et cetera, et cetera. And then to Dennis's point, then it felt like it tapered off. And then my business partner, who runs our campaign, he's like, all right, I'm going to try something else. And then he tried something else, and then same thing. Like, it goes really well. And then Dennis's timeline here, 45 to 60 days. Ours feels like it rolls faster than that, maybe every 30 days, but we also spend quite a bit. But what's interesting about Google is, I feel like it out-optimizes itself. A buddy of mine, Pedro Adeo, he's the challenge guy, if you guys don't know him, but Pedro said something really funny. He goes, you can only optimize something until it breaks. And that sounds, like pretty... like, well, yeah, dude, of course. But it made me pause, because I was like, dude, that is so true. And that's what we do. And I feel like Google's machine learning is built to always be optimizing. And what ends up happening is it optimizes itself into a corner and then has nowhere to go. That's why you'll have really well-performing campaigns, especially in hyper-competitive niches. You'll have really competitive campaigns that, just work themselves into a position of obsolescence. And then if you refresh and try something else, honestly, anything else, then it starts to work, which is it's weird. It's sort of a contradiction in terms. I also think that there's what I call self-imposed inflation. So, Dennis is using target CPA. That's target cost per acquisition. That means, hey, Google, I want a lead for this. I want a customer for this. Well, if everybody in an ecosystem is using target CPA, Google's going to optimize in a certain way, and we're giving Google the opportunity to price fix. But if somebody goes in there and says maximize conversions, maximize clicks, whatever, now that change puts you at a potential advantage or potential disadvantage, depending on how you're looking at it, because you're now optimizing kind of against the grain. So I do think that there are some benefits to changing your bid strategy, changing your attribution strategy. I know that sounds nuts, but we do this for smart shopping sometimes. We'll make first click attribution the gold standard for the first 90 days because we're just like, show us where the customers are coming from, because we want more of that of the acquisition. So I'm not telling you to tinker with your campaigns. I'm not saying that at all. If you have a successful campaign, see how deep that well goes. I shot a video on this a while ago, but we had one campaign that, we ran through all of our tests, but we didn't make any major changes. I think we made like 12 major changes in the year. It was like one per month. And the client kind of called us out on it. And my partner said something brilliant. And he goes, dude, you're not paying me to know what buttons to press. You're paying me also to know what buttons not to press. And, an idiot would have gone in here and just like tinker just for the sake of tinkering. And I mean, we optimized his feed and we added other things, but there's an element of, hey, you just need to watch and leave it alone. Imran's saying, we're working with an Indian ethnic apparel brand and want to scale inorganic revenue from international geographies. Are there any specific tips you have? They already have decent organic run rate. Let me reread that. You've got a ethnic apparel brand. So I'm assuming, Imran, that's you're selling Indian clothes and you want to sell Indian clothes to people outside of India. Tell me if I have that right. Scale paid revenue from international geographies. If they have an organic run rate, that's great. What I would do is I'd roll up smart shopping. What's cool about smart shopping is it's going to identify common denominators. So Google collects 70 million demographic and psychographic profiling factors on every single human being on the planet. Crazy stuff like the verbs that appeal to you, your favorite color, what TV shows you watch, etc. So if you already have purchases rolling through your system and you overlay smart shopping, Google's going to use those purchases to find other people that look like the people that are buying. So what I would do for you, Imran, is I would take a smart shopping campaign, and then I would actually build multiple smart shopping campaigns for each new geography, because every geography is going to be a little bit different. So if you're going after Daisies, and for those of you that don't know, Daisies are South Asians. If you're going after Daisies that are international, I'd have a smart shopping campaign that targets Canada, one that targets the US, one that targets the UK, Australia, New Zealand, etc. And the reason I'm separating those is because I think that, and this gets maybe weird, like I'm overstepping my bounds, but I think that South Asians are going to be a little bit different in every geography. My father's Pakistani, so the Pakistanis in Canada are a little bit different than the Pakistanis in the United States for various reasons. They end up assuming more of kind of like a Canadian mentality. So you take smart shopping, overlay it on a per geography basis. So you're going to have multiple smart shopping campaigns, which, by the way, is a breach of Google's best practices. They say don't to do that. I tell you that they're wrong. And then you have to let it run for 45 days. And smart shopping is going to be crazy erratic. It's going to bounce around left, right, and center. But over time, what you should see is which geographic regions are going to perform for you and where you're able to position purchases. Because what's cool about smart shopping is it's going to look at who's buying now from within India organically, and then say, well, this person's in Canada, but demographically and psychographically, they look the same. So I'm going to go push these products in front of them. I think that's what could potentially work. Imran's saying we tried smart shopping. It's not scaling. Make sure you're segmenting by geo, like I mentioned, and don't put in a target ROAS. This is the biggest mistake that everybody makes, is they put in a target ROAS in smart shopping. And it's like trying to find out the size of the room, but you put your Roomba inside of a box. It's not going to be able to get outside of that box. So just don't use a target ROAS at all, and then see how big the room is, see how expensive the room is. And then you can say, okay, I can't afford all this. Let's go here. I hope that helps, man. Let me know if you have other questions. Dennis is saying, I'm asking myself why all YouTube gurus talk about Facebook ads and not Google ads. Why do you think they're doing that? Because YouTube and Facebook are analogous to each other in so many ways. They engage the same way. They're interrupter marketing. So Google's search is inbound. I need to buy tennis shoes. Bam, tennis shoes. It's actually pretty linear. What I do is, when you think about it, is maybe easier. Facebook and YouTube both, they're not there to buy from you. You're interrupting their day. And we're interrupting for different reasons. I think YouTube traffic is higher quality, but Facebook traffic is cheaper. But the YouTube gurus are trying to capture the Facebook traffic because the strategy that people are using on Facebook carries over to YouTube. getting in front of people with value-driven content, and getting them to engage with the lead magnet, moving them into your funnel. There's this kid that I can't stop getting remarketed by, Alric Heck, and he's a YouTube guru-ish, self-proclaimed. I bought his education. I wasn't super impressed. It seems to be really, kind of like you just go read Google's education on YouTube and then you repackage that. It's not bad. It's just not great. But he's attacking Facebook left, right, and center. He's like, Facebook's dying on the vine. You definitely need to move over to YouTube. And I actually think that he's right. I think I mentioned at the beginning of this video, if you weren't watching, I think iOS 14 is going to kill Facebook in the short term. I don't think Facebook is dead, but I'm seeing, because we have clients that run Facebook and a handful that we'd run Facebook for, I'm seeing CPMs go through the roof. One of my biggest clients, he's spending $500,000 this month. His CPM is 5x. It's 5x. And I think, I don't know if I can lay it all at the feet of iOS 14, but I think a lot of it is that. And so you're going to see a lot of Facebook advertisers pushing into other mediums, which means YouTube. And so we're going to see the cost of YouTube, I think, skyrocket too, because all those people are going to be frantic. They need somewhere to push their ad spend. Dennis is saying, why do you manage Google Ads and not create your own online shop? I mean, you have the asset to launch a successful store, don't you? Yes, I do. I do that, Dennis. Thank you. So I have a couple, my partner and I, and we also take equity and or invest in other people's stores. And it's for that exact reason. I was sick of just sitting around watching people make a bunch of money, and we're not necessarily profiting in the same way. So it is something I do. I try to, I shouldn't have said that now in this video, now that I'm thinking about it. I try to avoid equity conversations because we get so many people that come to us as leads. They pretend to be customers and they're like, well, we'll give you a percentage or whatever. And I don't like that at all, because in my mind, I'm like, dude, we get, I know my thing works. We don't know if your product is going to sell, if you can fulfill, if you're, shipping, receiving, customer service, if your business model is even sound. But we do have a core group. I do some consulting for FINRA licensed broker dealers. So we have a core group of referral partners, let's say, and every now and again, we worked with a company that had a really cool dispenser for hand sanitizer, which sounds stupid, but it was like, B2B, high margin. And, we partnered up with them and worked on a performance basis. So to your point, Dennis, we definitely do that. I've done that in real estate investment too. We had the highest performing real estate investment campaign on the planet. And it was all, we were paid for performance. Ryan said, it took me over a year to get my campaigns dialed in. I was getting 7-8 leads a day. Then Google convinced me to automate bidding, and my leads dropped to about 1 to 2 a day, and my cost tripled. Yeah. So Ryan, dude, first of all, so sorry. Second of all, to everybody who listens to this, never listen to Google's people. Ever, never, ever, never, ever, never. And I don't think I can make that case more childish or any stronger. They're just going to go, they're not bad folks. They're smart. They have a script. Google wants everybody on automated bidding. And Google wants everybody on automated bidding because it helps them manage their ecosystem better. Imagine if all your customers said, here, do whatever you want. How cool would that be? You'd be like, oh, this is awesome. And you could actually start to price fix a little bit. Because if you think about it from Google's perspective, if let's say there's 10 plumbers in a geography and Google wants all 10 of them to be customers, Google can take the inventory accessible in that geography and figure out how to spread that inventory across all 10 plumbers to keep them all inside the Google ecosystem and all spending at the maximum rates for Google's maximum profitability. Google could do that. Now, would that be illegal and, congressional antitrust lawsuit worthy? Yeah, absolutely. But what's stopping them? How would we know? We wouldn't. And Google also has a minimum bid threshold, which pisses me off beyond belief that A, they have it, and B, nobody talks about it. If this is an auction, how come there's a minimum bid that Google will just say, hey, this traffic has to start here? It's absolutely absurd. And I think that number can change on a per advertiser basis. It's nuts. So I don't listen to Google's education. The course that I created is called You versus Google because I like Google as an ecosystem, and even as a company, I think they do some good things, but they're not for us. You know what I mean? Like we're fighting against them. So Ryan, I'm sorry that happened. I hope you're able to roll it back. Here's what's weird about what Ryan said. He's getting 7-8 leads a day. Google tells him to change the campaign. He's getting 1 or 2 leads a day. You would think you just set it back. You would think you just go change your settings back and then your campaign comes back. That's not true. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again because I have clients who come to us with this exact narrative. We had great campaigns. Google ruined them. I tried to set it back. It didn't work. And then we have to start all over again. It's crazy. Dennis is saying, did you have success with Google Shopping in other countries? It's a good question. Most of my clients, to the tune of like 85%, are in the US. Google's going to be more effective where it can capture data. So Western countries for sure, especially where people are using Gmail. If you ever use Google Smart Bidding, you'll notice you get a lot more Gmail leads. And I think it's because Google relies so heavily on what it is that we're writing inside of our emails. We have had success in Australia, UK, Canada. Canada is really honestly analogous to the United States as far as Google's concerned. Like, it tends to segue really well. And that's all I can think of, man. We haven't expanded far into Europe at all. And I haven't done anything in Asia, Asia or Africa, or South America. So I'm sorry if I'm being a fence sitter here, but I would just say test it. But you're going to want to see where people actually engage with the Google ecosystem. Abdul Fattah said, how long average should we expect Google Shopping campaign to become profitable? So far, 2 weeks and not good results. Yeah, dude, you've got to wait. You've got to wait 45 days. First of all, you have to run regular shopping so Google knows that you have purchases. If you don't have purchases come to your site, Smart Shopping is going to fail. So you need to go get purchases some other way. Once you have some purchases, you need to wait. You need to enable Smart Shopping, 0 TROAS, no target ROAS. Let it run for 45 days, and then on day 46, it begins to learn. So you just haven't spent enough time. Also, our price point and landing page is day and night better. Yeah, I do. Just give it more time. It sounds like you're set up for success, and you just need some more time. Imran said, how important is quality of creative for banner ads? Can good creative push up ROAS? Yes, yes. So here's what's really funny about Flock, Google's new federated learning of cohorts, and all the privacy-based changes. Because we're not going to be able to target the way that we're able to target, your creative becomes maybe one of the most important things that you're putting together. Your creative needs to attract and repel. You need to be able to say, hey, this is who I'm for. And the way to do that is it's the 1-2 punch that's been true for marketing since the advent of marketing. It's, if you're an X, then we can Y. Or if you're an X, then you need Y. So if you're a dentist, then I can help your efficiency, or help put more patients in the seats, or whatever. So the creative needs to be, it can't be opaque any longer. We've been really, as marketers in general, we've been really lazy with our creative. And that's going to change. Now that the privacy concerns are killing our targeting, now you need a target with creative. People need to be intrinsically qualified based solely on the fact that they watched your videos, looked at your ads, etc. Ryan, my Google contact admitted that I should just do what I've been doing. They gave me a credit of $500. Yeah, thanks for nothing, Google. But I wasted 2 months. They're trying to make money for Google over individuals. And then Ryan said, yeah, there's a huge lag when I switch back. Yeah, sorry you went through, man. I'm really, that bums me out. Google knows they don't have any real competition out there. Bing isn't an option. You know what's so funny about Bing? They say that Bing has 30% market share. Microsoft says this, and Google says this. And it helps Microsoft because it's like, oh, yeah, people actually use our products. It helps Google because it's like, oh, we don't have a monopoly. Bing has 30% market share. Google has 99% market share by search. If you look at the number of searches that take place, Google has all the market share. So all that means is that, yeah, Bing might have 30% market share by capita, but that just means that people that use Bing don't search. And it's probably because it's a lot of old people, to be honest with you. They take the computer out of the box, they put it on the desktop, and then they never really touch it. So, yeah, I'd be really careful with thinking that Bing's a viable. I've seen some quality traffic come out of Bing. They're less clicky. They tend to be older, more affluent. So I'm not telling you not to run Bing. And, 1% might be 5% now. Maybe they've grown a little bit, but it's definitely not more than that. But yeah, Google has no alternative. I can't wait. And it might be Amazon, believe it or not. But I can't wait until somebody comes in and we actually have the competition that would be necessary to breed an ecosystem where the advertisers and the consumers benefit. There's a reason that governments don't allow what's happening now with Google just owning the entire search space. I mean, this is a true monopoly. And when we finally have a competitive environment, look what happened with cell phones. Do y'all remember how expensive long distance used to be? It's like 50 cents a minute. It was nuts. And then these cell phone providers came in and they just went at each other's throats. And now, I mean, you can unlimited talk, text, web, whatever for $10 a month. It's nuts. So I'm excited to see some level of competition increasing. And I think that's going to happen with the Internet of Things. I think that nobody's going to unseat Google inside of the medium that we're currently in. They're too heavily entrenched. But as more things come online and we have a medium shift, there's going to be internet in your car, internet on your door, internet in your refrigerator. And that's going to give the opportunity for a foothold to other networks where Google might not necessarily be able to get out ahead of it or just buy up everything that's happening. And if and when that happens, it'll be really interesting. I thought it was going to be with like Alexa and Nest and all those things, but they ended up not being quite as functional as I thought. Dennis is saying, since you can just copy Google Ads into Bing, I can only recommend it. Yeah, Bing makes it really easy, by the way, to just wholesale put all your Google ads into Bing. And Martha's saying, I can't wait for another option besides Google. Yeah, we're under its thumb. Y'all, I've got to go. I've only got a half hour scheduled for these, and I have a call 1 minute ago. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all showing up live. This is great. I thought this was a great call. I'm going to do this every Friday, and I promise I'm going to be more consistent. So for those of you that were asking me about what's going on, I'm sorry that I left you hanging. But I'm doing it every Friday. It's going to be 9 o'clock Pacific, so you can contend with whatever the changeover will be. Yeah, appreciate y'all showing up. Super grateful to and for you. And